Hi, good morning. Well, good morning from India and greetings from wherever you are. So it could be many different timelines. so I'm Sudha Kumar. I'm the director of the USC Viterbi India office. And so I work in the area of alumni and constituent relations. So I am delighted to have a wonderful panel. We have one more panelist who's expected to join at this point. But most of you should already have their resumes. They're all amazing people with decades of experience in India. So they have the pulse of India and not just India, across the world as well. So they would be really amazing people to give you some insight into what's happening in the Indian market. So India, as you know, is the world, as you know, is going through so many different transitions right now, whether it is immigration trends, whether it is wars or AI or, the trade deals in India. And India is now the fourth largest economy in the world. And so many more opportunities are available in India. And I guess there is a lot of interest in what's happening in India. So without further ado, I will go ahead and start and introduce Srini Chinnamalli, who is the founder and a CEO of a semiconductor company called Tesol, currently joining us from Israel, but he is based in Bangalore, India. I'm also glad that Nitin Sharma has just joined. He is the founder of Antler India, and he's a partner there as well. He is our startup guru and has decades of experience again in that, even though he never looks that old to have decades of experience. Our third panelist is Viral Thakkar. He served as a partner in Deloitte for many, many years and just very recently made a transition to be the Chief Business Officer of Credible ESG, a Trojan company. And the reason I say it's Trojan is because three of the other co-founders are all Trojans as well. And Jigar Shah, who worked for many years in Yardi System, is joining us from New York right now, except that he is based in Pune most of the time in India. So Jigar just took over as the CIO of WeWork Global. So congratulations, Jigar, on your very new appointment. So with that, I'll just keep the introduction very brief, and I'm going to ask each of you to make a statement about the topic of the whatever your thoughts are. Keep it to 2 to 3 minutes each. So I'll start with Srini Chinnamalli.
Thanks, Sudha. Always great to be part of the USC events. Brief background about myself. I started my career in the Silicon Valley in the US. I worked there for about 15 years, and the startup bug bit me and got started with setting up a semiconductor engineering company. The name is Tesol. Um, and for that, I moved back to India in 2004. Then I've seen the evolution of the industry, right, from 2004 to now. Along the way, we grew Tesol to being the largest standalone semiconductor engineering company in the world. When we first started, we had this theory that there's a lot of activity happening in India, and we can take advantage of that and provide good value add over there. But 2004, I'm in the semiconductor industry. There was some fringe work being done as an extension of global semiconductor companies. But the evolution has been great in the last 20 plus years. Now the industry is evolved. We are 20% of the world's semiconductor engineers, design engineers are from India. and we are designing full advanced chips out of India. And the Indian government has given a big boost by providing lots of incentives to manufacturing. So there's a lot of the back end manufacturing activity happening in India. So there's a good boom for semiconductor industry, not only worldwide but also in India. So there's great opportunities in India. I'll be happy to share for some of you who are considering working in India or in this industry. I can share my insights on the employment opportunities here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Srini. So let me ask Viral to go next. Viral, you want to say a few words?
Certainly. Thank you, Sudha. Good morning and good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you. So just a quick background for myself. Spent 28 years in consulting across US and India, first with KPMG and then with Deloitte, as Sudha mentioned. Early part of my career, large part of my early career was spent in helping clients tap into the India services opportunity. So, worked with many clients to help them set up GCCs and offshore business units, which gave me a window into, the progression and the value add that was increasingly starting to happen, from GCCs. And then more recently, I spent time on both the strategy side and then subsequently on sustainability and climate, which are also both very big topics especially for India, because not just as Sudha said, being the fourth largest economy, but as a country, our growth is very closely tied to energy security, energy transition, and broad sustainability. We all see air quality problems and so on. Obviously, Bangalore and Nitin are exceptions, Nitin and Srini, but rest of us do have that air quality problem. So it's something that we must solve as a country. So all these areas are highly relevant, and happy to answer any questions that address some of these. Back to you, Sudha.
Thank you. All right, Nitin. When I look at the alumni body in India, I see so many entrepreneurs. So please go ahead and talk about, give me your opening remarks about entrepreneurship in India.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I have spent exactly half my adult life in the US and exactly half my adult life in India now. So feel very fortunate to be able to talk about this perspective. I think, sorry about the background noise. I think my journey basically started after USC undergrad in San Francisco, did mergers and acquisitions, and then after that has largely been around venture capital. Early stage in the US initially on the East Coast, then worked for a startup, and now it's been 9 years of living in Bangalore and about 13 years of being back in India. And I think the scene has completely transformed. When I moved back, India had one unicorn, billion-dollar private company, and there was less than $2 billion of venture capital being deployed in the country. Today, there are at least 100 unicorns, and there is something like 16 to 17 billion dollars of capital being deployed. So that basically in about 10 years, the amount of money that went to venture capital has become 10x, and the number of billion-dollar companies has become 100x. And I think that I always tell folks, to me at least, I don't have perspective on working in a corporate in India, which I think some of my fellow panelists will have a better view on. My entire perspective has been on VC and startups. VC is a very small industry, so I'm not sure how many folks are considering a career path in VC. But I think startups in India are the most exciting career path. And if I were in the US or thinking of coming back to India, I would prefer to do something entrepreneurial. I think we still have to catch up in terms of work culture in the corporate setting. But this is my 2 cents. I believe you should come back to India for all kinds of reasons, but professionally to do something entrepreneurial. And if it could be something entrepreneurial of your own, it could be something entrepreneurial in terms of joining an early stage startup or doing something entrepreneurial inside a larger organization. But if you come back to do something entrepreneurial, India is a very exciting place to be.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nitin. And finally, Jigar, your opening statements about India.
Yeah, thank you, Sudha. Everyone. I had the unique perspective of completing 2 masters at USC, one in electrical engineering and one in computer science. I would have been in Srini's field because my first master's was electrical engineering VLSI. With my second master's in computer science, I should have been in Nitin's field. But I ended up doing neither and joined Viral's ex-company Deloitte when I started my career. But soon, within a year, I realized that I wanted to be in hard tech. And thankfully, I mean, my entire journey compared to the other esteemed panelists here has been corporate and in just one company, right? So I've worked for one company for, I would say, all my life, which is 21 years, which is called Yardi Systems. And the perspective I have is when I joined that company, it was like a startup because, I mean, you can say it was a startup because it was it was making about 30 to 35 million 20 years into the company. And 20 years later, it now makes a recurring revenue of $2.4 billion, right? And I was fortunate enough to be part of that journey. As Nitin pointed out, when you join a startup, or rather when you work with a startup, you get a chance to do everything. And so that is what my perspective was when I started with the RD. And what happened is, obviously, like all of us Indians, our parents expect us to get married by the time we are 24, 25, 26, 27. And once I got married, my wife said, well, we need to move back home. And it so happened that 9 years into my work journey in the US, I moved back, or rather, after 13 years in the US, I moved back. And I've been now in India for almost 15 years, in coming March 28th, 15 years from the day India beat Pakistan in the 2011 World Cup. And I can say that it has been a great journey. And I think the best decision in my life, although it was probably inspired by my wife to come back, because I had the chance and the opportunity to develop a GCC for my company, Yardi in India, as well as look at the ecosystem and at the same time, I have hired over 1,500 folks over the course of my 15 years and probably evaluated over 10,000 resumes as well. So I have that perspective when I look at opportunities in India, and how I have grown through the organization at Yardi. And because Yardi acquired WeWork, and I was part of the journey to change their, part of the business transformation, I am now also the CIO. So yeah, that's my journey.
Fantastic. I'm not able to start my video for some reason, Simon. But the next question is, each of our panelists have amazing experience and are able to talk about so many different topics. But I will address my question to one person on the panel so that we get his perspective and try to make it as diverse as possible. So Srini, the first question goes to you. You already mentioned the Indian government's initiatives in the semiconductor industry, but I'm also seeing a lot of talk on Atmanirbhar Bharat. I'm seeing a lot of initiatives in the defense area. AI is also changing our industry quite a bit. What opportunities do you see in India, not just for semiconductors, but for all industries?
Yeah. In general, right? I mean, there is lots of energy in India right now. Of course, that's one constant factor. Ever since I moved to India, I mean, you walk around the workplace in India, it's all younger crowd, lots of energy, lots of ambition. But compared to 20 years back, right now there is first of all, when Sudha talked about AI, it's a huge opportunity in various industries, right? For both hardware and the software. In the semiconductor industry, especially, it's given a huge boost. Now everybody wants to make their own chip. Everybody wants to have their own secret sauce, whether it's edge AI or data center AI. So there is a big boom in the chip industry. And thanks to the geopolitical tensions between the US and China, India has suddenly become a global hub, right? Anybody who wants to expand. I mean, we operate out of 12 different countries, and we all want to. I mean, we hire several hundreds of engineers every year. But the kind of base that we have in India, the number of engineers we churn in India, I don't see that replicated in any part of the world. Whether it's Malaysia or Europe or US or any region. So first of all, there is a huge influx of companies. First of all, expanding worldwide, and they're all looking at India to expand. So and this AI boom has made it even bigger, right? Both in the software industry as well as the semiconductor industry. Now, of course, there is a huge increase in the GCCs. All leading companies in the world want to expand here. And the last 3 years, I've seen, people are doubling down on their efforts. Uh, Secondly, like what Nitin said, there's a lot of good entrepreneurship, activity in India now. I mean, we've already seen a good case studies of especially software in the e-commerce, people all becoming billion-dollar valuation companies. But now, even in the core, whether it's software or in the semiconductor, I see lots of startup activity happening. And India has good schemes on the DLI. They're it's still small in value. I mean, you can get $2 million plus if you have some good startup ideas as a seed capital from Indian government. And of course, there's a lot of activity, both VC and private equity activity in India. Our company just raised $150 million, and I'm amazed to see all the leading private equity firms have now anchors in Mumbai, and there's so much money, waiting to be deployed in India. So I mean, this is one of the best times for you if you want to start your own company or start some cutting edge activity even in the corporate world. India has lots of opportunities now compared to when I moved to India in 2004. We had to explain to the customs officer what a semiconductor test equipment is for us to even just get it from customs. But all that has changed right now. So it's a great place time to be in India.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question to Jigar. So Jigar, there's a lot of talk about AI, and has that impacted the Indian industry? Are there opportunities in tech industry? Are companies hiring? And what are they looking for in terms of qualifications and experience? Is it more the freshers that they're looking for, or are they looking for people who at the mid-level, or maybe you can throw some perspectives on that.
Yeah, hot button issue we were just discussing on our USC group chat today morning. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, if you ask me, I have always looked to hire fresh out of universities, because I always feel that people have fresh ideas and they can bring in fresh ideas to the table when we start working with them. What we have seen specifically in the last, I would say, 6 to 7 years is that the curriculum has changed quite dramatically in our universities, and they are teaching latest and greatest out there. At the same time, the I would say the Gen Z, if you want to label them, have armed themselves with a lot of knowledge on their own through all the tools that is available at their disposal. AI is definitely a disruptor, and AI is a tool that every industry has to use. As one of my one of my, I would say, friends in the USC alumni group stated today morning, AI is an enabler. So if you want to grow, then you grow with AI. It's not going to in my view, working with AI over the last 6 to 9 months, specifically with Claude models and ChatGPT and our internal data elements, I see that AI becomes the enabler for most of our jobs. And if we learn it right and use it correctly, there are more and more opportunities in the industry with AI. But at the same time, in terms of ROI, it's still yet to realize any. The jury is out there on it. But if you are a student or if you are looking for opportunities in the industry, it is important to arm yourself with decent knowledge of AI in today's world.
Yeah. And what about, is it at the, where are the job opportunities, Jigar? Is it at the mid-level? Is it at the start? Where are they? At the fresh?
I would say all across the board, because AI is new for everyone. So whether it's a mid-level opportunity or whether it's a startup opportunity or whether you're starting fresh at any place, right? It is everywhere. And almost for everyone, AI is as if you're learning. I mean, you are learning it over the last 3 years. It's not that it existed in its true form that it exists today 10 years ago. So the opportunities, I would say, are at all levels, more so at the fresher level and then at the mid-level, because some of the mid-level jobs sometimes are very managerial in nature in India at times. And so that becomes a challenge versus at the fresher level, if you are armed with AI, then you have the ability to be employed in various domains very easily.
And there's the tech in the entire tech industry, right? So supposing
Across
there's
the entire
someone
tech industry.
at the mid-level who's thinking of returning to India, or someone at the mid-level in India who's looking for jobs. What
Specifically, if you're
kind of
returning,
opportunities are there?
yeah, specifically if you're returning to India and you have a US degree, for example, a USC degree, you are very much in favor, or rather, people are looking for people with background, with a master's background, whether it's USC or any other university out there, right? So, and within the GCCs, as probably Viral can attest more, there are definitely a lot of top opportunities for folks who are returning back from the US.
All right. My next question is to Nitin. Nitin, you already talked about, the startup scene, and you were encouraging people to return to India, or the ones in India to get into the entrepreneurship field. Where is the funding over there? If there was a person interested in doing a startup, which areas or which sectors would you encourage them to work on?
Sure. I would also take Parag's question, if that's okay. So Parag, get in touch with me. I will put my email here. I looked at your website already, and it's cool. And it's a segue into the answer that I was going to give. So I think money is not the issue. I know that there's still a narrative that it's hard to raise money in India. I personally don't think that any founder it's not even pedigree anymore. Any founder with a strong insight and a great team, especially leaning into AI and AI native and AI first, that world, I don't think that funding is your biggest challenge. So if anybody's thinking, oh, if I want to do a startup, if I go to India, it'll be hard to raise money. It's easier to raise money in the US. Not that true anymore. There is plenty of money. It's actually going to fewer startups. So if you have a combination of a unique insight and the right to compete and win in your space, you're likely to get funded. It's at least the pre-seed and seed part, I feel, has become a lot easier. So please don't worry about that. What you can worry about is things like how much you can pay yourself, you know, what the final outcome will be, etc. But to start off, there is plenty of capital for good startups in India. To the second part of your question, I think we all will agree you should never start something thinking of funding. That would be counterproductive. Build what you are really passionate about, what you think you can give 10 years to, and don't think of anything else. If you believe there's this problem you want to work on for 10 years, the rest will fall in place. So I think there is more value in thinking about that rather than which spaces are getting more funding. But of course, the short answer to which spaces are getting more funded, the biggest shift in the last 12 months has been deep tech, and my fellow panelists also alluded to that. Semiconductors, defense, robotics, space. India, 2 years ago, I would have said, yes, if you're doing something in these spaces, don't come to India. Build it in the US. Today, I would say the opposite. For a variety of reasons, I think India is becoming a really exciting place. The government has just announced an $11 billion fund to support funds that invest in deep tech startups. We have 17 deep tech investments across the board. So I think, and a founder who's gotten very relevant experience abroad in deep tech is actually really going to be valued in India because there is still a dearth of that locally. And so your right to win and compete is actually higher here. So I would be very encouraging of someone coming back and doing any startup in aerospace, defense, all of these areas. Yeah, and of course, last point I'll make is just AI, but not anything that's AI enabled because that's what every startup is today. But we have a dearth of not just at the model layer, but infra tooling around it. So if you are someone who's got experience into that and you can stomach the idea of being in India and working here for 10 years and building from here, there is no dearth of opportunity and capital. And there are there's lots of good employees you can actually now also hire because enough people have gained that experience at larger organizations and the research arms of large big tech companies which have existed in India. So you just need to mentally prepare yourself, but the rest will work out.
So the next question is to Viral. Viral, you've been in Deloitte for so many years, and now you've transitioned, of course, to being an entrepreneur yourself. But what opportunities do you see in the area of consultancy, either as an independent consultant, if someone does not want to work in a tech industry, or if they don't want to actually take the plunge and become an entrepreneur themselves, or in major companies, consulting companies like Deloitte or Goldman Sachs? What kind of opportunities do you see in India?
Thanks for that question, Sudha. So if it's okay, Sudha, I'm also going to link parts of the GCC universe here because there are a lot of skills that are fairly transferable. So as Nitin said, a few years ago, working in India for Indian companies, would be quite the culture shock if you came from the US. That bridge or that gap has narrowed somewhat, especially if you're working with multinationals, right? And so that's a bit of a shift. And that work culture has improved somewhat, well, quite a bit. So you then therefore have this universe of multinationals that operate in India, along with these very large global capability centers, as Sudha indicated in the chat, which initially started as back office arms of large multinationals. And India has about 1,200 or so of these, growing at 8-10% every year. So not just new ones coming in, but also those that have been here adding more work and more roles. Some of the largest, for example, JP Morgan probably is the largest, and it's all publicly reported. They probably have approximately 80,000 people in India, right? So it's a substantial part of their global workforce that sits in India. And this obviously, this is among the corporate universe. So you'd have, Wells Fargo, which for the most part, nobody in India would know because they don't really have a local retail presence. But Wells Fargo has a big, a GCC operation as well. So you have a unique opportunity and a unique ability to get exposed to global businesses and to global organizations for industries that had historically been fairly shallow in India, right? So what I mean by that is investment banking, didn't really scale up till about 8, 9 years ago. But even 15 years ago, some of the biggest global banks were running some pretty exciting, front office adjacent work in their, back offices here, right? And these were people who were getting paid reasonably well and actually very, very well by Indian standards, still lower than what you'd pay on Wall Street, but still getting paid substantially better. What I mean by that is, and when I say that, and let's take another example. Folks like Target, Tesco, Walmart came to India before big box retail, scaled up, right? So if you wanted exposure to big retail, you actually got that through folks like Target and Lowe's and others, because there was nothing comparable in the Indian business, right? So the ability to get global exposure being based here and to get some of the global scale, which a lot of folks have then translated and gone into the Indian market and leveraged that experience. So I think that's an exciting one to explore. There's obviously a fair bit of I think Jigar alluded to this, that there's a fair bit of AI related disruption that will likely happen. And the best, in my mind, the best way is to be part of that journey rather than be disrupted. So, that's one comment I wanted to make. The other thing is, even when you look at consulting, when we've hired folks from US universities, even though you may be ranked lower as say a USC is obviously ranked lower than some of the top tier, say, business schools, you would still find that experience, the exposure that you get in a USC education, positions you very well with clients. Why? Because communication skills would be there. You've obviously been exposed to a lot more of the collaborative learning, and you're already used to working in teams, and you are exposed to asking questions and clarifying rather than just taking orders and accepting. So those we found historically to be fairly powerful, even compared to pretty highly ranked Indian universities. So there is some value, or say quite a bit of value, to leveraging your USC education to look for roles in India. So those are the few comments I wanted to make, so that happy to take further questions. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so if somebody wanted to set up an independent consultancy, are there opportunities in India in certain sectors more than others? Or if, just let's say there's someone at a fairly senior level who's returning to India, and they wanted to set up a consultancy. Would that be a good idea?
Great question. I think it's a function of what expertise you have and what you target. At least in the services side, India is a lot easier to start off on your own, in my opinion, compared to something that requires a lot of capital expenditure. There are a lot of incentives that the government also provides, especially if you can if your consulting business is going to become a startup, etc. Obviously, like with everything else, ideal to look to have a client in your back pocket before you start off. That's obviously the easiest transition to make. But I suppose it's possible. Jigar, you've been you played that role at some point, right? I don't know if you have further views on that. I haven't had much exposure to independent contracting, but I wonder if you have any views.
Yeah, I mean, to add to it, so I spent, like I said, a large part of my career at one company, but I did take a break for a year. And what I realized is that the knowledge, which is irrespective of our domain knowledge, but the knowledge of managing projects, managing global projects, or managing global support centers, having that experience working in the US and coming back to India and working in India, right? I think a large portion of today's attendees have some amount of experience sitting in the US and then and say are planning to return to India. That experience is very valued, right, across the globe. So, and especially after COVID, everybody realizes the value of that global consultant or the global employee that can that has the right communication skills, that is able to understand the requirements of the of a global company, irrespective of the sector they are in, whether it is finance, pharma, tech, deep tech, and are able to apply that sitting in India, not necessarily always providing low cost solutions, but providing quality solutions at all times, right? So I would say that there is a whole world out there in terms of consulting if you are looking to build something on your own. And again, don't forget AI, because that will play a crucial role as an ally to you to build good practices.
Okay. Thank you, Jigar. Thank you, Viral, as well. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the second part of our panel, and we are going to talk about the quality of work, the kind of compensation and growth trajectory, because I think all of our audience would like to hear about that. Srini, you talked a little bit about the global capability or competency centers, and Viral, you did as well. I think that's an example of the shift in the kind of quality of work that you can get in India. I know I recently visited Chevron, and I noticed that there was a lot of R&D happening. And I know that if you look at VLSI design, for example, in India, we are doing it at a very high level and maybe leading at this point in the world. So just wanted for you to talk about what is the quality of the work that people are able to get if they have a master's degree or an MBA and they are looking for work in India. What kind of jobs? And because I think depending on the quality of the job, that's where you get the job satisfaction as well. So.
Is that a question?
I'm sorry. Yeah, Srini, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, the quality of work, that's always been good, not just now, but even, 15, 20 years back when I started. For people coming to India, it's very important to have the mindset, because you will be paid premium for sure, right? In general, the salary levels have gone, quite high in India. But now, if you have some good skill in the US, you will be paid premium. But the main mindset you need to have is, hey, you're coming here to solve some problems, and whether you're part of large corporate centers or you're joining some startup, don't focus on the stuff that is not there, right? I mean, some of the common complaints I hear from, I mean, of course, we've hired over 5,000 engineers over the last several years, and a lot of them expats. If you focus on, hey, mostly junior guys here, don't have environment is slightly different from the US and so on, you will be frustrated. But if you focus on the positives, right? First of all, the energy levels in India is very high. So if you can bring an idea and you can convince whether it's, the senior management, or there's lots of stuff waiting to be moved to India. So if you first of all, there's a lot of advanced designs being done, especially the field that I'm in, semiconductor. You must have heard the news, 2 nanometer chip design right out of India. Lots of product designs happening. But whether you're part of these initiatives or others, you can put that entrepreneurial hat. You're here to solve a problem. You're here to move high quality work to India. I mean, for example, right now I'm in Israel. I'm amazed last 2 days what I've seen. Lots of decisions are being made here for all these large companies because the quality of work is so good. They're able to call the shots here. So we should have that mindset in India because we have a lot of power now because lots of ability to ramp up teams. And if you have that mindset, you will do very well, right? Because whether it's in semiconductor industry, there was a question on the semiconductor. I can take that later. Or software, right? Or creating some kind of AI based, disruptive work, or e-commerce, or lots of areas are there. But quality of work is all depends on your mindset, I think, and the good tailwinds as well in India for doing advanced stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Srini. Jigar, the next question is for you. In terms of compensation for a fresh grad with a master's degree, we'll start at the master's. A mid-level professional who is perhaps returning to India, or a more seasoned professional than that as well. What types of compensation can you hope to get in India? Just rough ballpark figures is fine.
Yeah, I'll start with the mid-level first because I would say somebody with a master's degree and I would say 5 to 6 years. I say 5 to 6 years is mid-level these days. Can definitely look at upwards of I would say 50 lakhs plus. And depending on the city you are in, right? So Pune could be at a lower end, whereas Bangalore and Gurgaon or Delhi, you could be looking at 75 plus as well, right? And this is with a US master's degree, and with, I would say, 5 to 6 to 7 years of experience in the US and coming back to India. If you are masters and you're fresh, you are competing with, I would say, bachelors graduating out of India, right? And and so the markup is not very large compared to the startup folks here in freshers coming out of college in India. But you could be looking at, I would say, 15 to 20 to start with. And that would be obviously the starting range for a person with master's degrees. But because you're competing with bachelors and there are, I would say, hundreds and hundreds of those engineers, you are competing directly. But if you are a mid-level with experience, you're looking at a good package, a healthy package, I would say.
Okay. Nitin, the next question is for you. You talked about deep tech startups. I know from our alumni group, we have one or two of those founders as well who are doing deep tech work. What type of startups are you seeing for the most part? Are they more, copycat kind of startups, which are kind of duplicating what already exists in the US, or you have innovative kind of startups that are happening in India?
Sure. I will also jump in again before I answer the question to share one insight, which I think the most important thing we have said on this call is what Srini said about not comparing. I had a hard time when I moved back from the US for the first few years. I will confess, I had moments of regret every day. So what have I done? And only when you make peace and stop comparing can you actually thrive in India. And we can actually have a whole hour on that topic. But coming back to your question, and the not comparing is really important because it is a completely different set of opportunities. And if you ever keep comparing the numbers, you will always feel like your peers who are in the US are doing better. Which is why I think it's easier if you're coming to do something entrepreneurial, because then you don't have to compare. You can just work on creating the upside and signing up to solve a problem for 5, 10 years. Of course, it's harder if you have a loan or something, but maybe something a few years saving enough to take care of some loans and then coming back sooner rather than later is better, because it does make it does coming back later is harder and harder. To the question that Sudha asked, no, actually, I'm glad this question was asked. This is the biggest change in the last 5 years, since I'll just speak about the Antler journey. Before this, I had other journeys in investing. But, if I look at year 1 and year 5, and I take a snapshot of 3 investments done that year, 3 investments done. The last 3 investments I've done are someone who came back from the Argonne lab in North Carolina to create advanced jet engines and transonic drones in India to compete with anything that exists in the world. So he wants to create the best advanced jet engines out of India, make India the 5th country to be able to do this. Another one is a 22-year-old female founder who dropped out of University of Alberta, was doing reinforcement learning as an undergrad, and is now come back and saying, why doesn't India have an Airbus? And that's such a strange thing for a 22-year-old to go after, but that's what we funded. Another one that just last week we finalized is someone who wants to create an alternative to CRISPR, so a gene editor out of India. So genuinely, I think in the last, maybe it's a combination of, some Gen Zs becoming founders who have grown up with a very ambitious global mindset. Maybe it's the money that's now available for deep tech funding. Maybe it's just the confidence of India. Multiple reasons. Now you're seeing actual innovation. So to that, your question, I think literally zero, and I really mean it, zero things that I have seen in the last 1 or 2 years are copycats. It is either something original, built ground up from India for the Indian consumer, or it is trying to compete with the best in the world, but not really a copy of anything, right? 5 years ago, or rather 10 years ago, everything I saw was X for India, right? Uber for India, Tinder for India, etc., etc. So the two ecosystems have actually diverged in that sense, and that's one of the healthiest things that has happened.
Thank you, Nitin. Wonderful.
So that I wanted to just add one point that this is I relate to the comment that Nitin made. The startup that I have had the privilege to join is largely all the engineering is in India. It's a global startup. We have clients globally, and we are going head on against large global competitors and winning, right? So to Nitin's point, it's possible to build something out of India that could still be leading edge in terms of how you deliver a great customer experience. So it's possible to do that, and I guess what I'm observing firsthand is a great proof of that.
Okay.
Back to you.
One of the biggest networker that I've seen in our group is Jigar Shah. So I think I'm going to ask Jigar to address the question of how people can network well, because I think that is something if you are not good at doing, it gets very difficult. How do you network and find the right people in India?
Yeah, I also wanted to address a couple of questions which were there on the chat as well related to that, right? Who people who are looking to come back and network and be part of it, right? So I'm guessing that most or almost all the participants here are from USC and who are looking to come back, right? And or are looking for opportunities. And the best way I found was obviously these days WhatsApp is everything. And we have a very robust network as USC, right, across the board. I think there's a tendency at times for people to just stay quiet and not talk about what they do or what they're looking for. But the only way to get out there is being able to participate in the events that are out there, right? Whether it's a USC event or a networking event hosted by USC or some alumni associations around, right? I found myself, I think, easy to get more opportunities when I attended a lot of conferences, attended, and as Parag mentioned in one of the chats here, attended or put up a booth in some conferences myself so as to get in front of people as well, right? And USC, given the fact that we have, I would say, 10 or 12 different chat groups by cities, we have a lot of events throughout the year. That gives you the most opportunity to talk to a lot of people and be and I would say put your resume in front of them, right? Without putting your resume, I think if you are able to talk to them and just let them know what you're working on or what you're looking to work on, anybody and everybody in the USC network is ready to help them, right? So, yeah.
Thank you. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground, but of course there are many questions in the chat and the Q&A. So we'll go to that in just a bit. But before I do that, I'm going to invite each of our speakers for any final thoughts that they have. And if you can keep it to 1 or 2 minutes, that would be great. I'll start with Srini.
Yeah, I mean, if you are trying to return to India, this is a great time. I see a lot of confidence in India right now. Challenging the world and trying to become the best in the world. And like Sudha said earlier, this Atmanirbhar scheme, right? So we're trying to be self-sufficient in a lot of areas. We're trying to reduce the import of products to India and trying to do as much as possible in India, both in the hardware and the software world. And of course, on top of it, the icing on top is the salaries have really gone through the roof. So it's not like 20 years back when you're moving back to India. And the last thing is, the experience in India. And if at all you want to go back to the US or Europe, the conditions may not be great now, but the experience you get in India, and because all the companies deal with India, so going back to the US or Europe will be even much better, right? Much easier. We want you to contribute to the Indian ecosystem, but even if you want to go back, this experience will be very valid. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Srini. That's very, very helpful. Viral, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. So broadly echo the points. An India transition obviously takes some time. As Nitin said, there will be good days and there'll be days that are not so good. But the USC network in general is very, very supportive. With Jigar at the center, along with Sudha, keeping all of us connected. But to be honest, I found that a number of times people ask questions and very quickly 3, 4 suggestions come through. So that network is very strong and very powerful. So collectively we'll do our best to help and support. But there is no better time than this to make that jump or to explore opportunities. With everything that we've discussed, I'm really optimistic and proud that we have something great going. As India continues to make progress towards, be it Vikasit Bharat, 10 trillion, 7 trillion, whatever that might be, there'll increasingly be more and more opportunities for all of us.
Thank you, Viral. Very, very optimistic statement, and I share that as well. Nitin, next. You next.
All right, I'll try to condense in some bullet points. Number one, think of coming back to India as an irrational choice. Don't rationalize it too much. It will make your life easy. Do it for irrational reasons, family, contributing to India, building something of your own, being closer to parents, all of those things. Number two, stop comparing after you've moved. There's no value in that. Number three, easier and better, more fun if you do something entrepreneurial. Otherwise, the work-life balance or the work culture that if you've gotten used to in the US after 5, 10 years, you probably will not find it easily in India. But if you're doing something entrepreneurial in a startup or new age company, you'll probably be okay. Number four, your standard of living is actually quite good in India now with things like quick commerce and all kinds of digital avenues for running our life. Life has become very convenient, at least in the big cities. Number five, quality of life may not be the same. It will actually be a downgrade. That's about air, water, walkability, urban planning, civic sense,
Roads.
all of that. So I don't want to tell people anything like quality of life in India is better. I don't think it is better. It is not better. Standard of living is better for the same amount of money. But if you can make your peace with it, you can do really well in India. And how do you make your peace with it? How do you adjust to it? Number six, find your bubble. I stay very close to my office. I avoid a commute. I've architected my life around so I can make it very convenient and not have to face hassles daily. Number seven, find your tribe, which is very similar to what Jigar said. And of course, the USC network is a place to start. But once you found the 5, 6 people that can be with you in this journey, it does get much better. And last is be very, very patient. I think the same outcomes can be achieved in India, wealth-wise, creating a company, but it typically takes longer. So if you come back with the mindset of, yes, in a 15-year time frame, 10-year time frame, I will be just as wealthy or as doing as well as I would have in the US, you'll probably be fine. But if you expect rewards to come fast, you will get frustrated.
Thank you. Jigar, final words from you as well before we move on to the Q&A.
Sorry, can I just answer a couple of Q&A answers because I typed in all the answers and I realized I'm only sending it to my host and panelist. Is it okay? Just quickly, if I can answer a couple of them, because I see message from Daksha, from Sumant that are related to coming back with someone with 17 years of work experience. So Daksha, I said, if you have 17 years of work experience working in multinational firms, you can get on par US salaries depending on your domain knowledge. And if you're from USC, then you have a very good network that Sudha and the rest of the, I would say, Sudha for Viterbi, and there are others as well that run WhatsApp groups and other channels. You can connect to founders, investors, senior officials in multinational firms. It's easy. The other one was from Sumant, same question, how to expand and how to meet mid-level or senior level hiring in India. Same thing, the network, USC India network is very strong. Parag, I would say the same thing as well. And best to get in touch with Sudha and team. They will put you in touch with or get you added to the India channels depending on which city or a state you're looking to join into, right? And then I think my panelists have covered most of the topics that I would have liked to conclude on as well. And as Nitin pointed out, don't compare. Once you come to India, don't think about dollars versus rupees. It's a quality of life that you need to think about. Close to your parents. I had that experience. Thanks, I came back at the right time. Ability to have your community or the sense of community compared. I know in US most cities have Indian communities, etc., but it's nothing like your family, your friends, and being around that. So, and if you can find your peace with what you want to do, so your niche area, what you want to build, whether you want to do entrepreneurial or if you want to get into a domain, I would say from a job perspective, I always say learn a domain and you are golden forever. If you are going to try to just learn some tech or try to be a project manager and be just a generalist, it can be difficult to survive. But if you're a domain specialist, I feel you can last forever, ever and ever. And I'm saying just from my own experience of 20 years in the real estate and investment management software domain space.
Thank you, Jigar. Appreciate it. It's been a wonderful panel, lots of questions, and we have already hit the 1 hour mark. So I'm going to start taking a few questions. The one from Angela, perhaps Srini or Nitin, either of you could answer. How is the investor sentiment in India for defense and AI startups? We are weighing our options between US investors and Indian ones.
You want me to take that? Okay. It's fantastic. I almost worry that it's a bit of a bubble now. There is, because of the Operation Sindoor and obviously what's happening geopolitically, there is a sudden realization in the government that we have to build a lot more indigenously. And so what that is doing is, sorry, there's some noise. I'm moving a little bit to avoid that. So there is a sudden expansion of defense procurement budgets. And there is also this R&D fund that's been announced, the 11 billion one that I mentioned earlier. So a lot of it is going to defense because the idea is that we will need to move away from procurement from other countries. And Indian companies will now start exporting because, by the way, this is happening globally, right? If you look at what Macron and the US, the Europeans are doing, etc., every country is just ramping up indigenous defense procurement. So now the question for you is, what does this mean in terms of restrictions that can come if you are building in India a defense AI startup? If you're selling, it could be dual use. That's one thing. So you can be in defense and also be dual use and sell outside of defense. But one thing one would have to be careful about is if you were trying to sell to certain countries, obviously that will become hard if you're headquartered in India. So once you're domiciled in India, you assume that you will be able to sell to friendly countries, but not the whole market.
Okay. Thank you, Nitin.
Yeah.
Next question to you, Srini. It's from
Maybe
Surya
I have a quick add-on to Nitin.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's huge opportunity, but if you're trying to do something in the AI or even electronic space, there's a huge push, like Nitin said. But you got to be a little bit more patient when you're dealing with defense kind of industries. So my experience has been whatever you're building, build it for other areas as well, and defense can be an extension of that. You can get faster realization for commercial. My personal experience has been you got to be very, very patient with the defense things. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Sudha.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is what I hear from other alums as well who are in the defense industry. All right. So, but the next question again is to you. It's from Surya. If someone wanted to build a VLSI manufacturing or semiconductor hardware startup in India over the next 5 to 10 years, where do you think the real opportunity lies? In fabless design, packaging, OSAT, specialty materials equipment, or full-scale fabs?
Yeah. Surya, I'm not sure what your background is, but there are several opportunities in India for in the semiconductor area. The first one, I would say, India is trying to be self-sufficient, from getting away from importing a lot of products. So there's a lot of action now in trying to replace products that we import, right? For example, government is encouraging any chip ASIC that goes into a camera, kind of a module, both for security and self-sufficiency. They're encouraging companies in India to replace it. Right now, a lot of these chips come from China, MediaTek and HiSilicon and other places. So whether it's a microcontroller or a camera ASIC, and then there's a lot of companies trying to do power management chips, right? There's a lot of power management that goes into whether it's refrigerators or EVs, and all that is imported right now. And those chips don't require a lot of investment like advanced node, right? Where you require $100 million for one tape out. You can get started with $5 to $10 million. So a lot of products, that's one area. Second is, if anything, if you can put together a team of very strong ASIC design company, everybody is trying to get into custom silicon, right? So everybody they don't want to buy standard products anymore, especially it's driven by AI. So if you have a good ASIC design company, again, huge opportunity there. Package design, of course, industry is moving towards chiplets and advanced heterogeneous packaging. That's become a very, very hot area as well. And I do see some, and doesn't take a lot of capital to get started, but of course, the competency should be there. On the manufacturing, I would say, you can look at, of course, here you need big boys, right, for lots of investment. But in the manufacturing, there's a lots of opportunities for software in terms of looking at the semiconductor production yields and how do you optimize, doing some statistical analysis tools, keeping the machine uptime optimization. A lot of software that is, opportunities that are there. So these are four major areas, but I'll be happy to chat one-on-one based on what your competency or your group competency is. I can give some. Of course, services is always a huge opportunity out there. But yeah, I mean it's a good setup, and of course all startups government is encouraging. I know at least many startups have received $2+ million of funding to get started, right? Seed money before you go to VCs. But if you need any further information, I can talk to you. But these are the four major areas I can see.
Wonderful. Thank
Thanks.
you. Next question I'd like to take up is Shashank, and I'll let whoever among the panelists want to take up this question answer it. I'm working on building a startup in Bangalore to help manufacturing industry, especially medium and large scale factories in India, with quality control using machine vision solutions. Core idea is to automate quality checking. This involves software and hardware components. My question, how easy or difficult is it for Indian manufacturing industries to adopt AI technologies? How are funding houses looking at this as a viable option for investing in this sector? Who's going to take up that question?
I can take a first shot at it.
Okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So this is a very, very important area, and of course, some people are already in it. Uh, Especially, there's a lot of manual work that happens now, right? Incoming inspection, outgoing quality inspection, and we've already been dabbling with, and it's very labor intensive, right? And also error prone because depending on the quality of operator, it can change. If we've already looked at some visual inspection, right? AI based visual inspection, there's a golden template and compare against, millions of components that are being manufactured. This is a very good value add for any factory, right? Whether it's in the semiconductor, mechanical, or any area. Some kind of camera-based visual inspection, which is AI driven, and this is a very good area, and it doesn't require a lot of funding also to get started in this.
But are companies willing to start using AI tools? I mean, they're willing to invest in whatever it takes to.
Yes, yes.
You're seeing that sentiment because some years ago, for example, companies didn't want to invest because they had labor.
Yeah. No, I think this is first of all, it increases. I mean, for example, we ourselves are trying to deploy it because we are not a full scale manufacturing, but we have proto kind of manufacturing. Yeah, one is the quality, right? In terms of it's less error prone because it doesn't depend on who is in the which shift, night shift operator versus day shift operator, and so on. It saves a lot of cost as well, but more importantly, it introduces a very good quality element in it. And I've seen many factories looking for this kind of solution.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure there is a and of course AI solutions have become cheaper as well. It used to be much more expensive earlier.
Right.
I think in the broader space, we're definitely also seeing a lot of startups earlier serving in selling software or AI to Indian manufacturers seemed like a lost cause, but last 2 or 3 years it's been a fair bit of activity, and I think part of it is also the generational change inside these companies. Sometimes, many cases, the newer generation is taking over, and those folks are folks like some of the people in the audience. Some of them have come back from abroad, and so they're very keen on being ahead of the curve and thinking about vision and robotics and all these areas. So, but I would still encourage anyone to go after who's going after this to if you're doing this in India, just have more patience. It will still take a long time to monetize it the way you would imagine.
Okay.
By the
So
way,
I think
these
we
solutions,
Mhm.
sorry, these solutions can be for the world, right? We can try for India, but there's lots of factories in the US as well looking at these solutions. Yeah. Sorry, so that go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, fair. I thought the question was the person was asking about being back in India and doing it, but absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Shashank has just moved back to India. All right. I think we have time for just one more question. So let me, okay, Abhishek has a question for professionals who spend time in platform or corporate innovation roles. What capabilities are most transferable if they want to move closer to the investment side? Is that a question that you can take, Nitin, or somebody else?
Probably Viral, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have experience with corporate investing, so if the answer is that they want to move to corporate venture capital, maybe someone else might have a better perspective. But if the question is used to that experience and come out and work on the investment side in a venture firm and not a corporate VC, yeah, I think venture is a strange small industry that has people from all backgrounds. So there is no used to be that most of VC in India was templated. People went to banking or McKinsey or something, and then or IIT, IIM, etc. I think in the last 10 years, it's really changed, and now the industry has people from all kinds of backgrounds. So ultimately, it comes down to, can you be a magnet for founders, and can you add value as a board member, and those questions. So I don't think the background matters as much, but I would not. It's a small industry, so I think it just takes a lot of luck and serendipity and time to break into. So I always encourage people to operate and build value there, and investing you can do later in your life on the side, etc. I'm not sure it's a great career path, honestly. I know I've done it for 15 years. I don't actually tell other people to do venture as a career path. There's so much more value in other areas.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nitin.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
echo that.
ahead.
Just 30 seconds on that. So I think the good news is that there are a lot more corporate and family office funds that are coming together that are also actively engaging with the startup ecosystem and others for investing. But as Nitin said, it's a very, it would be a very serendipitous, involvement and very low probability of somebody coming fresh out of school. It's probably something that you want to get into after you have established yourself in a certain domain. As Jigar said, it's the domain and that expertise that's going to be the differentiator.
All right. Well, that was a wonderful panel, a lot of information. Of course, the topic is very, very large, so we may not have hit every single thing, but I think we covered a fair amount of ground. So as most of the panelists have alluded, we have a pretty amazing alumni network in India with generous alumni like the ones on the panel who are willing to give back, who are willing to talk to other alumni. So if you wish to be part of this network, write to me. I put my email on the on the chat a little while ago. It's sudha.kumar@usc.edu. I want to thank Simone Jackson for all the help that she has given in setting up this session for us. Thank you to the USC Alumni Association. Thank you also to my colleague Angela, who's out there somewhere helping out in the background, and Mark and Matt, thank you very much. I hope Matt has been posting, asking people to opt-in network sheet. So I hope all of you have filled that. With that, I think we should come to an end. I apologize to the people who've asked questions we've not been able to cover, but do reach out to us, and I'm sure we'll be able to help you with your answers. Thanks again so much. So
Thank
with
you.
all of you, let's all say fight on towards the end.
Fight on.
1, 2, 3, fight on.
Fight on.